much.
It's only Monday.
Yeah.
Six o'clock.
We'll call the meeting to order. This is the Bella Vista City Council meeting for April 22, 2024. First item is the Pledge of Allegiance.
God bless America.
Roll call.
Council members Snow,
Here.
Hughes,
Here.
Wozniak,
Here.
Wilms,
Here.
Fowler,
Here.
and Hunchel.
Here.
Thank you. First item is citizen input, and we didn't have anyone sign up today. Second item is council member reply, so we don't need to reply to that.
Mayor,
Yes?
some people asked me about this meeting, and I had a Bella Vista moment, and I told them 6:30, so that'd be my bad, so they may or may not be coming, and I'll ask when they come if they can have a few minutes then. I gave them the wrong time, so that's on me. It's okay, good plan.
Okay.
All right, I just asked. I can
Okay.
live with it.
Next item is action on the minutes of the March 25, 2024 regular meeting. Any comments, or is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve. Second.
That's Mr. Fowler and Mr. Hanschel. Roll call vote.
Council members Snow,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hunchel.
Yes.
Motion carried, 6-0. Next item is reports. I have a proclamation I'd like to read. It's about Building Safety Month, which is May 2024. Whereas Bella Vista, Arkansas is committed to recognizing that our growth and strength depends on the safety and essential role our homes, buildings, and infrastructure play, both in everyday life and when disasters strike. And whereas our confidence in the resilience of these buildings that make up our community is achieved through the devotion of vigilant guardians, building safety and fire prevention officials, architects, engineers, builders, tradespeople, design professionals, laborers, plumbers, and others in the construction industry who work year-round to ensure the safe construction of buildings. And whereas these guardians are dedicated members of the International Code Council, a nonprofit that brings together local, state, territorial, tribal, and federal officials who are experts in the built environment to create and implement the highest quality codes to protect us in the buildings where we live, learn, work, and play. And whereas these modern building codes include safeguards to protect the public from hazards such as hurricanes, snowstorms, tornadoes, wildland fires, floods, and earthquakes. And whereas Building Safety Month is sponsored by the International Code Council to remind the public about the critical role of our community's largely unknown protectors of public safety, our local code officials, who assure us of safe, sustainable, and affordable buildings that are essential to our prosperity. And whereas Mission Possible, the theme for Building Safety Month 2024, encourages us all to raise awareness about building safety on a personal, local, and global scale. And whereas each year, in observance of Building Safety Month, People all over the world are asked to consider the commitment to improve building safety, resilience, and economic investment at home and in the community, and to acknowledge the essential services provided to all of us by local and state building departments, fire prevention bureaus, and federal agencies in protecting lives and property. Now, therefore, I, Mayor John Flynn of Bella Vista, Arkansas, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2024 as Building Safety Month. Accordingly, I encourage our citizens to join us as we participate in Building Safety Month activities. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is another report, financial reports. And we have the financial reports for the 2 months ending February 29, 2024. So far this year, results are good. City's sales tax is up 5.4% as compared to last year. County sales tax is up 7.4%. Total revenues are up 10.5%. And we're having, so far, good fortune with our controlling expenses. Our year-to-date expenses are $443,000 less than budget. So we feel pretty good about our position so far this year. So seems very similar to some of the reports we had last year, so we have good consistency, I would say, lately. Next, I'd like to entertain a motion to suspend the rules of order and procedure to allow all ordinances on the agenda to be read by title only.
So moved.
Second.
That was Mr. Wilms and Mr. Fowler. Roll call vote.
Council members Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
and Fowler.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Going to unfinished business, there's an ordinance requiring candidates for election to any municipal office of the city of Bella Vista, in addition to any other requirement of state law, to file campaign contribution and expenditure reports with the Bella Vista City Clerk in sufficient time for voters to make use of such information prior to the beginning of early voting and for other purposes. And this ordinance is on third reading this month.
Okay. Obviously, I'm the sponsor of this ordinance, and I've really struggled with whether to go ahead and move forward to make a motion to approve or not. And I've decided I'm not going to do that this evening. I'm going to defer for another month. I'll make a motion here in just a minute to table to May. I would just like to say I believe the rationale supporting this ordinance is very strong. I believe the voters of Bella Vista have a right to know any campaign contributions that are made to candidates for public office in Bella Vista. I believe it can make a difference in people's decisions, having known what some of that information may be. I actually believe it made a difference during our elections in 2022, once some of that conversation got out into the public. I did just kind of check and do the math a little bit. So the elections in 2024 will be held on November the 5th, which is the first Tuesday after the first Monday of November. Early voting would begin October the 21st. Currently, the campaign contribution reports would be due, I believe, the 27th of October, which is a full week after early voting begins. So even if the campaign contribution reports are submitted a week after early voting begins, it would still take people an amount of time to request, to receive, to review, to digest, and maybe make some decisions, concerning that information. So I believe the rationale, again, is strong. And like I said, I've done a lot of other research in the meantime. Over the last couple of weeks, I actually know more about voting in Arkansas than I really ever cared to know. But I will talk about that in May, so I'm going to make a motion to table this ordinance until the May agenda.
Second.
That was Mr. Fowler and Mr. Wilms. Is there more discussion?
I would support the proposed ordinance, thinking that information for the public at large prior to voting is important, and it may or may not have an influence on the outcome, but at least they will be informed as to where funding for the campaigns occurs. So.
Mr. Mayor.
Wendy?
Two questions. Are you waiting to hope for an AG response?
I am, I'm sorry, I meant to say that, yeah.
No, you're good.
Yeah.
And has there been any update on that, Jason?
As of 5 minutes ago, when I looked again, there's been no opinion issued.
Okay, thank you.
I would just say, so I reviewed the voting laws in Arkansas quite extensively, and I didn't see anything in there that says that we can't enact something like this. AG might have a different opinion, but there's not anything that states it. And so just the very, very last, I guess it's a paragraph, it's actually a sentence. In the ordinance, Section 3, it says, "Nothing in this ordinance shall be deemed to supersede or abrogate any requirement of state law regarding the timing or filing of campaign contribution expenditure reports by Bella Vista Municipal Office candidates within the county clerk." So, you guys said, we're not trying to, step on the state's toes, if you will. But this has to do with our local elections and our own municipality specifically, so. An ordinance we may enact here, so.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second to table this ordinance until May. Could we have a roll call vote?
Council members Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0, so it'll be tabled until May. Next one is a resolution, a similar topic, expressing the opinion of the City Council, a nonpartisan body, that citizens should be highly vigilant regarding the influence of partisan and special interest group campaign contributions during Bella Vista nonpartisan municipal elections. And that was tabled in the past. But it's up tonight.
They don't necessarily, they kind of go hand in hand, but, yet they don't. One is, submission of campaign reports. The other one is just being vigilant about where you accept your funding from. And be very careful that doesn't give people the opinion that you may be swayed by a particular person or a particular party or particular special interest group or whatever it may be. But I'm going to make a motion to table this resolution to the May agenda as well.
Second.
That was Mr. Fowler and Mr. Wilms. Any discussion? Okay, let's go ahead and have a roll call vote on the motion to table until May, the resolution.
Council members Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
and Snow.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Okay, let's continue on with new business. First one is an ordinance amending section 10940 zoning ordinance amendments of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Bella Vista to modify notice requirements related to planning commission initiated zoning amendments and for other purposes. Staff didn't request this, but since it seems to be non-controversial, we may want to consider going to third and final on this. Is there any discussion?
I guess I'm still unclear as to what we're doing. I talked with Attorney Kelly today, and he provided a copy of the state ordinance, and it looks like we do are required to do a public notification, whether it's initiated by the city or whether it's initiated by a particular private property owner. And so the notification is still going to happen. So I may have misunderstood at the last meeting. Maybe Ms. Robertson could explain the process again.
Sure. Currently, our local ordinance goes above and beyond the state statute and says that city staff has to pay and publish a legal ad in the Weekly Vista or the Democrat Gazette. Those are our two main circulating newspapers here in Bella Vista. We choose to do the Weekly Vista, even though they have an earlier publishing requirement date, but that is more specific to Bella Vista. So we will typically publish a legal ad in the paper 3 weeks. We have to send it in 3 weeks before because the Weekly Vista is required for legal ads to be sent in like a week before the date instead of Friday before the Sunday date, which is the Democrat Gazette. It's really the content of the legal ad is what's changing. So right now, we're required to legally describe the property, and when we have rezones, and if it's not just a lot and block and subdivision, that can be a massive legal ad and very expensive. So it could range from just a $50 legal ad. We've had all the way up to like a $1,200 legal ad. So we're just trying to do what other cities do and just notify the public just in layman's terms of the subject property, which is what the state requires, and just nixing. Since we don't get application fees or anything to help, lessen the blow of the legal ad and things like that with our city-initiated planning commission initiated public hearing. So we're going to reduce the cost on that as well as sign costs and things like that.
So what kind of advertisement would we show for a property in a platted subdivision and then for a lot that had a meets and bounds description or a certified survey map creating it or something like that?
So if it's a subdivision, typically it's just lot, block, and subdivision, and then we always put the address. We try to describe it in layman's terms if there isn't an address, like across from an address that does exist, or it's at the corner of Rogers Road, 279, whatever it is. We try to describe it to where anyone can understand it, because not everyone knows how to read a legal description. That's really just in there to meet our municipal ordinance right now. I'm not sure if anyone uses it. So we're paying for a lot of words that's not probably being used right now.
So, are you done?
Go ahead, Mr. Fowler.
No. So if anyone saw it, the notice in the newspaper, and they had any further questions, they could always contact CDS or yourself and get a more detailed description, right?
And the legal ad will say who to contact and our email and our phone number.
Yeah.
And then we also direct them to our website too, because we also go above and beyond and post it there.
Do all lots in Bella Vista have an address? I know platted lots would have an address.
Actually, platted lots, if they were platted before we were a city, do not have an address. They don't get an address until they apply for a building permit, and then the Benton County 911 will assign one. New subdivisions that are being approved now, we do require addressing plans, but that's only 2 subdivisions in the city. All the rest don't have addresses.
How about meets and bounds certified survey lots? Do those get addresses when they get created too, or not?
They don't get an address until there's a building
Or the
permit.
building goes up?
That's the building,
So
yeah.
the building location on the lot could change the number on the house or building or whatever.
Yeah, give or take.
Motion to approve?
Well,
I was hoping to get a motion to go to third and final.
I'd like to
Go ahead.
make a motion to suspend the rules and move to third and final.
That's fine. Second?
That was Mr. Fowler and Mr. Wozniak. So the motion is to suspend the rules and go to third and final. Roll call vote.
Council members Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
and Wozniak.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. I'll read it for a third time. Amending section 109.40 zoning ordinance amendments of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Bella Vista to modify notice requirements related to planning commission initiated zoning amendments and for other purposes. Is there a motion to approve?
I'd just say, 3 things.
Sure.
We meet state regulations, we save the city money, And if anybody needs any further information, it's published in the article, so they can call and ask questions or any information if they need it. Right? Okay, so we're good. So I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
That was Mr. Fowler and Mr. Wozniak. Roll call vote on the motion to approve.
Council members Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
and Wozniak.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Next one is an ordinance waiving the requirements of formal competitive bidding and authorizing a contract with Superior Automotive Group in an amount not to exceed $120,000 for the purchase of two 2024 Chevrolet Tahoe police vehicles for use by the police department. This is another one, if people are happy with it, we could go to third and final.
So I don't want to use the wording that it replaces what we approved in this is March, right? Because there was a mistake or an error.
No, that's a different one.
That's a different one, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Larry?
There's a pretty red Suburban out in the parking lot. Is that one of the new ones?
I don't believe,
It's a bright red one?
not that I know of, no. I don't think, I wouldn't get a red one.
Probably Steve's.
Yeah, he doesn't get them until you approve. just
Hey,
for
my
the
my
record.
first squad car here was a 66 Chevrolet station wagon, bright red with turquoise vinyl seat covers. That's the first squad car I was assigned. We sort of made the Keystone Cops look pretty good back then.
Yeah,
Move to approve.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and move to third and final.
is there,
Second?
that was Mr. Fowler and Mr. Hanschel. Roll call vote on the motion to suspend the rules and go to third and final.
Councilmember Fowler,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
and Wilms.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. I'll read it for a third time. Waiving the requirements of formal competitive bidding and authorizing a contract with Superior Automotive Group in an amount not to exceed $120,000 for the purchase of two 2024 Chevrolet Tahoe police vehicles for use by the police department.
Move to approve.
Second.
That was Mr. Wilms and Mr. Fowler. So roll call vote on motion to approve.
Councilmembers Snow,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
and Hanschel.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Next one is an ordinance amending section 26-36 prohibited parking of vehicles on certain areas of property in residential zones of the city of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Bella Vista to provide for a permit to parking on grass, declaring an emergency, and for other purposes. And this was brought by Mr. Fowler, so I might have him comment on it a little, but this is a attempt to solve the problem at Tenured Creek parking area because it's become so popular. But it would apply to other places as well. We particularly thought about the, various craft fair things, 4th of July, different times when they do have parking on grass.
Yeah, so
Like that.
Mr. Wozniak brought this to our attention at the work session last Monday. He'd received a call or two, I don't know how many, from residents that live by the Tanyard Creek trailhead. And what's happened is that area has become so popular with residents and probably visitors to Bella Vista as well, as a nature walking trail. It's great for families or people that maybe aren't as mobile as others. But what's happened is that parking lot is getting full on weekends. So as a result, people are having to park on the streets. And I don't know what that name of that street is that goes off of that trailhead, but they're parking on both sides. It's causing congestions and issues. Residents are becoming irritated, you know, by the inconvenience of it. And the situation is right by the paved, I guess it's paved, I don't know if it's paved or if it's SB2 gravel, but there's a grass area that I believe the POA has actually allowed parking on that area in the past, but per our current ordinance, that isn't allowed. And, you know, there was, again, a lot of conversation about, you know, how to solve this, but nothing was really settled on. So, you know, I kind of walked away from it, and I called the mayor, and I said, couldn't we create a temporary permit to handle special situations? And I reminded him that we had the Northwest Arkansas Festival, previously the Arts and Crafts Fair, where we had parking on the grass. We have the 4th of July Parade that has extensive parking on the grass, and we haven't had anybody raise an issue with that in the past. And I believe that the Tanyard Creek Trailhead is a special situation also. That is private property right next to it, and it's been used in the past, and I don't know why we would want to keep the current situation in play, continue to irritate the residents, and actually, I guess there are a couple people, different people that went over to park that couldn't, and there was a disagreement over who could park where, and it evolved into a shouting match of sorts, and it was kind of an ugly scene. But why continue to have this situation when we could solve it? And that's part of the responsibility of the city council, you know, is to work for and represent, you know, the residents and try to find solutions for situations like this. Thus, this ordinance, which would allow for a temporary permit for 3 consecutive days, that they'd have to go, I guess, to CDS to request a permit. There's going to be an ordinance, actually a resolution that follows this one that's going to recommend a permit fee. We'll have a conversation about that in a minute. But now, Northwest Arkansas, Festival, the 4th of July event, Tanyard Creek, they can all go get temporary permits that would serve and solve the situation of parking on the grass in these special situations. So that's what it's about.
Wendy?
I do have a question. So the POA, they would need to get a 3-day permit for every weekend, basically, for the Gear Garden when it's open, because they also park in the grass at the Gear Garden, the Blowing Springs, as well as the Tanyard Creek area or any other possible area?
Keep in mind that the grass parking issue is in residential zones.
Oh, perfect.
So the
Your
Tanyard
garden
area
fine.
is residentially zoned, thus the problem.
Blowing Springs
I can't
not.
speak to those other areas. I don't think they're residentially
They're
zoned,
not.
but I don't know.
No. Perfect. But could they do one giant application for the whole year, or would it need to be every week they to come in?
The permit shall not exceed more than 3 consecutive days at a time. There's no language in the draft that says that you have to, you can only apply so far in advance. So
Basically 26 permits.
I don't think we could deny an applicant who came in and said, here are 6 different 3-day periods that are separated by a day that we desire to have a permit. I think they could do that, as long as the permits are issued for no more than 3 days in a row.
We were anticipating that we actually have a draft form. And we're anticipating that they could sign up for a bunch of weekends, basically, at once.
May I?
Sure.
Yeah, so I actually, you know, had a conversation with Tom today about this, and he's fine with it. You know, it solves our problem. Additionally, just so the public will know, there's actually, I shouldn't say an act in progress, but there are plans to put a parking lot in that grassy area, but they have to go through, you know, the planning, and they have to go through development stage, and then it has to go before the planning commission. So there are steps, and that's going to take, what, a minimum of probably 8 to 9 months to get that done. I don't know how long, but it's going to take a period of time. So this is really kind of like something to help with a a situation that should be temporary until they get their parking lot done.
Sorry.
Wendy?
Another question. The funds that are collected from the permitting fees, would those be where would those funds be used? Is it,
They're not assigned, so they would just go into the general revenue pot.
okay.
So you're saying that Tom is okay with this $10?
Yes, he is. We had a conversation about that a little bit, but this is, you know, the conversation with the city council and what we would
Right?
decide, right? But I was going to kind of wait till I got to that because I was maybe going to make an amendment myself.
Yeah, that's it's a secondary issue. It'll come up soon,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Larry?
Reading ahead on our agenda, if you
Yeah.
read ahead, it would be $10 a day as it's proposed in the draft that we have attached here. So it'd be 30 days for a 3-day weekend. So if you have 10 weekends, so 2.5 months, it's only $300. It's not a huge amount, and it covers the issue and the problem that we have to some degree. So, especially in the big picture.
I'd like to add too that this ordinance does include an emergency clause, so it would go into effect immediately. We don't have to vote on that separately, right, Jason? It's in the ordinance.
You have to vote on the emergency clause separately.
You do?
Oh, okay.
So you'll have to suspend the rules and
Yeah.
move to third and final reading, and then if that's adopted, have final debate, and then if you adopt the ordinance, then someone will need to move and second the emergency clause, and then we'll vote on that.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and move to third and final.
Second.
That was Mr. Fowler and Mr. Hanschel.
Got a question?
Yes, sir.
So if a resident is going to have a large gathering, birthday party, or whatever the situation might be, then they can also apply for a permit, park on the grass?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I should mention, one of the reasons we put this in the residential section is because it was a way to go forward without the planning commission. So it would have taken a month or two more to see if the planning commission had to do it first.
Is there a worry that on the residential part of it, a private resident maybe abusing this to, hey, have a $1,500 parking pass for every weekend at their house, or short-term rentals, or?
As long, they can get a permit for 3 days at a time, and as long as there's a day in between, they could seek as many permits as they want.
And they have open ground.
Now, keep in mind that part of the requirement is that the proposed temporary parking shall not create a public safety or traffic concern as determined by the chief of police. I mean, if they're pulled off in the yard, it's kind of hard to say they're in the street and creating a traffic concern or a public, I guess it could potentially be public safety if you just had so many cars in there, people couldn't get out or something. But to answer your question, yes.
Mr. Wilms?
Does this put us at risk with the short-term rentals in terms of allowing parties to occur at those or large gatherings?
This
to
doesn't
occur?
address parties, it doesn't address short-term rentals, it addresses parking on the grass in residential zones.
So it allows
So
them to do that on a schedule?
If a short-term rental was in a residential zone, which most, I would dare say all of them are, they could get a permit to park cars in the grass for no more than 3 days.
For 3 days? Yeah.
No
And they
more
have-
than 3
and they have
days.
to skip a day, correct? In other words, it can't be,
They'd have to skip a day. They could only get a permit for 3 consecutive days. Then they have to get another permit for a different 3 consecutive days.
Jerry Snow?
Has this been before the planning commission? Hasn't reviewed this, have they?
No, it's not a zoning regulation, it's a parking regulation. It's in our parking code, so it's not in our zoning code. But we define the parking issue as it relates to a residential zone, but it's not a zoning regulation.
I don't know, I think that maybe this hasn't been thought out thoroughly. I mean, I can't place my finger just at the moment on what the situation might be, but I feel like this is probably going to open not a can of worms, but a bucket of them.
Mayor, the debate point at this time is whether to, motion and second to suspend the rules and go to third and final reading. That's where the debate is at this point.
Question,
Larry?
who may apply for this? If I read the ordinance, any person or equity owning or controlling.
That's correct.
So it could be a manager for the site, or it could be the owner.
Any person or entity owning or controlling residentially zoned real property.
So it could be a caretaker as an example.
Well, an
If they
agent,
have
yeah.
control,
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
So we have a motion and a second to go to third and final. Are we ready to vote on that? Okay, roll call vote.
Council members Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow,
No?
Hughes,
No.
Wozniak,
Yes, reluctantly, but it's a start. If we have to fix it, we always can.
Wilms,
Yes,
Fowler,
Yes.
pass 4-2.
Motion carried 4-2. So we still,
move to go to,
Mayor, we need to go ahead and read the ordinance a third time.
yeah, we've gone to third and final. Is there more discussion or? people
Well, you got to read it.
Mayor,
first,
you
right?
need to read the ordinance
Oh,
for the third
sorry.
time.
Amending section 26-36 prohibited parking of vehicles on certain areas of property in residential zones of city of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Bella Vista to provide for a permit for parking on grass, declaring an emergency, and for other purposes. Permit to parking.
move to approve.
So I just have a few, I think this is a good idea. I'm cautious to go so fast into it. Have the other department heads like had a chance to like opine on this? Like any thoughts, or would that be proper, or?
It was drafted mainly by Taylor Robertson.
Okay.
So their department was involved in it.
And they are okay with this and backing this?
Well, I don't know that they.
Is-
They all answer to the mayor, so whatever the mayor's position is
Yeah.
the staff's position.
Okay.
Okay, so are you,
Oh, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I just have the only thing that gives me pause is just residential parking. Because I could see how that could be abused.
Yeah,
The intent is there. I think it's the right thing, for the right reason. I'd almost just do could we do a special session? I don't know. I'd really be curious to see what everybody else thinks, because I really think that we could be sticking our foot right in it with residential parking. Because I, for one, really like that aspect of Bella Vista. I lived next door to my neighbor's boat for about 5 years, and I know that's not what this is, but I had mow around that wheel every weekend in the summer, and I hated it, and I just hated looking at it. And I think this is gonna open us up into a real big discussion that we're gonna have a time with. But anyway, I'd be curious to see what everybody thinks.
I think it does dovetail a little bit with the fee.
Well, it's, whoever made the point of $1,500 for a
It's
parking,
Yeah.
you know,
For,
or
for,
whatever.
for every weekend, like it's only $1,500, like $60.
Yeah,
So
I mean, if you're,
paying storage
if you're
fees.
able to get
Yeah,
5 couples at your house on a weekend, and I'm not getting, I don't want to hash all that stuff out.
yeah, I
So I'm just
understand.
saying that there is
Yeah.
a potential for abuse or overuse, possibly. So, that's my thoughts.
Wendy?
And motor vehicles also include like RVs, is that correct?
An RV is a motor vehicle.
Okay, so RVs could be also parked at these feasibly short-term rentals as well in the front yard for 3 days at least over a weekend, based on this. Okay.
But wait, Taylor.
RVs still need to be, don't forget about the screening. And I also wanted to note as well, those within the POA also have to abide by ACC requirements. And they also oversee parking on grass and surfaces.
Is the ACC okay with this?
They have told me they are aware of the situation in Tanya and the need for something like this.
Okay.
May I, 4th of July fireworks, we rezoned the parcel of land right there by the bathrooms at Scottsdale and Glasgow, I don't know, a couple years ago. So that is R1. So I don't know who's going to step forward and tell, you know, that event we can't park in that area because that's zoned as R1. Now, I'm not sure about all the property out 279, you know, going toward Hawassi and what that is zoned exactly.
For the festival,
Yeah.
it's R3, but they have a conditional use permit. That was issued this month. So theirs is already taken care of.
So conditional use?
Yeah, theirs was covered under their conditional use permit. Anytime you have an event that's longer than 3 days, or you have a tent that's larger than 800 square feet, you have to get a conditional use permit with all kinds of conditions, from the planning commission. So they are already covered under their CUP that was issued this month.
Okay, we still have the situation at the fireworks. That is R1.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
yeah.
So we,
What, Larry? You, John?
so the question
Larry?
is, we are unable to issue a permit for that to the POA, or
Well, I'm just saying.
who?
The fireworks is zoned as R1, you know, down below.
Which is
on
residential.
Scottsdale, yes, just like this parcel of land we're talking about right here.
The owner, however, is the POA.
Right, just like they're the owner of this land at the grass park, the area for the grass parking lot as well.
Take a joint effort to make that happen, but that probably can be worked out.
Every now and then, you gotta put your big boy pants on and turn your back, folks. I mean, it's just common sense.
Well, it's not about big
It's,
boy
you know,
pants,
it's
it's
a-
about painting a
it's
broad
it's
stroke of parking across the entire city like just blam out of nowhere. You're talking about special events here, and then you're talking about people that are gonna be calling in every weekend that there's 5 cars parked
Well,
out there.
then we
How did
add
this happen?
special events to the ordinance.
I'm just saying that we're using a broad stroke here.
Taylor, could you come up to the microphone for, I wanted to make sure the television cameras got it, so,
Well, I'm about to really confuse this.
yeah.
But if the area where the festivals are conducted is residentially zoned, a conditional use permit cannot be used to allow parking otherwise prohibited. Because it's not a zoning regulation, it's a parking regulation. So, I mean, I understand they bring trailers and whatnot out there to put a ride and they park cars out there all the time, but
Well, I assume the point you were making, Doug, when you said it was R1, the point is that they need to be able to park cars there for the 4th of July fireworks.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is consistent with doing that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's.
You know what, it's really interesting. You know, you come up with what you think is a simple solution, and then it just gets
Yeah,
so mucked up so fast.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I mean, sure, I mean, residential properties, like where I live at my house, I guess I could go get a permit to park in my front yard. I don't know that that's gonna be well received within neighborhoods and things like
Yeah.
that. I think that you're probably gonna make some enemies pretty quickly.
yeah.
And I just, you know, to me, I guess it could happen, and if it did go down that road, we could rescind it if we had to, if it was abused. Right, Jason?
anything you adopt, you can repeal.
There you go.
So what I wanted to ask you, Taylor, and this is outside our purview, admitted in some ways, what is your perception of what the ACC rules are?
They have a very similar requirement for single-family lots that we do right now. We probably came up with ours based off of theirs, but they require single-family homes to park on SB2 at a minimum or concrete.
I would be willing to bet $1 that the areas that we're discussing are not designated privately as residential on the plats. So the issue of parking on the grass, the private issue of parking on the grass that the ACC would be concerned about would not apply to Tanyard Creek area, would not apply to the fairgrounds area. I'm going to call it the fairgrounds area, the Cooper land, that's actually not even in the POA. So what this ends up doing is creating a situation where someone in the residential neighborhood could say, I'm going to get a city permit to park a car here for 3 days in the yard, and the ACC is going to come knock on the door and say, we don't allow you to do that.
Well, that was the point of my question to Taylor. Maybe this is a hypothetical where the ACC bails us out. I mean, we're making a rule to help them out at Tanyard, and if people try to use it at their house, the ACC is going to shoot them down.
Is this not similar to the chicken situation? Like, where we're saying, yeah, you can do this, but
It is very analogous to that, where we allowed people to have a certain number of chickens in residences, but the covenants did not allow it, and so some people face civil litigation regarding that, even though they were in compliance with our regulations.
The white fences was another case that,
I'm kind of surprised it doesn't really matter right now today with this conversation. I'm kind of surprised that the POA didn't request a rezone on this whenever they did the rezones on all the other properties. But it doesn't matter today, but it's kind of a surprise to me that they didn't.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Wilms?
I guess there is some risk. I sense we could be at risk here, but we created the ordinance, and if we approve it, we can rescind it, we can amend it, we can revise it with the same vehemence that we're going after tonight. At least my sense is that we want to get it activated and effective tomorrow. So while we may be at risk, you know, the ACC may not agree with it, or we may be at risk in terms of opening Pandora's box for some situation that we haven't thought about, but we'll learn that very soon. So.
Jason or Wanda, have we had a motion to approve in a second yet?
No, sir.
Okay.
You're debating on third reading at this point.
Okay.
Okay, I thought you did the third reading.
Yeah, we passed the third
The
reading.
third we did.
Yeah.
Okay,
So you just
motion to approve.
Yes.
second.
That was Mr. Hanchel and Mr. Fowler, a motion to approve. So we'll have a roll call vote.
Councilmember Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow,
No?
Hughes,
no.
Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
and Fowler.
Yes.
Motion carried 4-2.
Move to, what's the last part?
Have an emergency clause.
Move to enact the emergency clause for this ordinance.
Second.
That was Mr. Wilms and Mr. Hanchel.
Roll call vote, council members.
Hang on, Mr. Snow?
I just don't see the need for the emergency clause. I don't see what the need is for this to immediately take effect.
Oh, well, the reason is, for emergency clause has to be health, safety, and welfare. And we've had a situation that's a substantial safety risk because of the parking situation. People park on both sides of the street, and emergency vehicles can't get through, that type of thing. So,
Causing safety
Tanyard
issues.
Creek area.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
just in the Tanyard Creek area. Yeah, that's the reason why they wanted to. And this is the time of year it happens. If this is January, we would need an emergency clause, but it's the time of year when it's become overwhelmed with
Yeah, without the emergency
people
clause,
wishing
what,
to use it.
60 days?
Well, if we have a parking situation where the parking is being blocked, where the emergency vehicles can't get through, then that should be a police department issue. I mean, that should be able to be rectified by the police
It is
department.
able to be rectified. Yeah, that's true. You can tow everyone away.
We have a motion and a second, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
For the emergency clause, roll call vote.
Council members Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow,
No?
Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak.
Yes.
Motion carried 5-1. Thank you for that. Next one is a resolution establishing a permit fee for permits to park motor vehicles on grass pursuant to section 2636 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Bella Vista. Doug, did you have something
You
to
know,
say?
after some of the conversation that we just had, I'm going to leave it like it is. I'm good with it like it is.
Move to approve.
Second.
Mr. Wilms and Mr. Fowler, this is a vote on the resolution for the permit fee of $10 a day.
Mr. Mayor, I have
Yes.
a simple question. If they want to get a permit, does it have to be for 3 days? No, they can get it for 2 days?
Yeah,
It's
three.
not to exceed 3 days, so
Yeah.
they could do it for 1 day
Yeah, it could
and
even
pay
be
$10.
one, yeah,
Thank you.
good question.
Question,
Jerry?
somebody wants to have like a pop-up used car sale, and they got one to park 3 or 4 cars in their yard with for sale signs on them.
Well, there's more involved there than just parking cars. I would say that's a retail car sales lot, and that would probably violate the zoning code if they did that.
Plus, they gotta all be registered.
Assuming they weren't registered, that would be a problem as
I
well.
mean, if they buy a permit for 3 days, and as I said, and park cars there with for sale sign on it, they got a permit to park the cars.
And that's all they'd be allowed to do. Everything else would still be in full effect.
So is that going to be, that's not going to be a criminal matter, right?
Well, it'd be an ordinance, if they're running a car lot in the front yard on the grass, and just saying, I'm getting a 3-day permit, 3-day sale only, they're not gonna be violating anything by parking the cars in the grass. They would have a permit for that. But they're gonna be in violation of the zoning ordinance for having a car lot in a residential zone and buying and selling cars. It could be commercial activity. That would be that would be my recommendation on that, if somebody decided to do that.
Mr. Wilms?
Mr. Kelly, would it not be also in violation of the fact that vehicles need to be licensed to be parked in your driveway?
They do have to be, all other regulations apply. So they could have a permit to park the car, but they cannot park unlicensed cars. So that could still potentially be a problem. In this theoretical car lot in the front yard of a house, I don't know whether or not there are valid license plates on these cars or not. So that would be fact specific.
Any more?
Nope.
Okay.
Call for the question.
Yeah, do we have a motion second on the resolution?
Yes.
Okay, a roll call vote?
Council members Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow,
No?
Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
and Fowler.
Yes.
Motion carried 5-1. The next one is a resolution approving body worn camera and in-car camera policies for the police department. And we had some discussion with the chief going over that, but if there's more questions for the chief about it. No.
Motion to approve.
Second.
That was Mr. Hanschel and Mr. Wilms. Roll call vote?
Council members Snow,
Yes?
Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
and Hanschel.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Next one is a resolution approving an organizational structure chain of command policy for the police department. Any questions about that?
Very thorough.
I thought it was very straightforward.
Yes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
That's Mr. Hanschel and Mr. Fowler. Roll call vote on the motion to approve.
Council members Snow,
Yes?
Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
and Hanschel.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Next one is a resolution approving the mayor's reappointments of Laura Hoffert to position 6 and Mark Pelton to position 7 on the Tree Advisory Board for 3-year terms ending May 1, 2027. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Wilms and Mr. Hanschel, roll call vote.
Council members Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
and Hughes.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Next one is a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into a contract with Emery Sapp and Sons, Inc. in the amount of $111.92 per ton for asphalt street resurfacing, hot mix overlay, and further authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into a contract with Vance Brothers, Inc. in the amount of $2.75 per square yard for slurry street resurfacing. Mr. Wilms?
I have a question for Karen. With the asphalt paving at $111.92, are there any additional costs that are not included in that, so that we would see added on to the contract?
Yes, there are, that comes out of that budget. There are additional costs that will come out of the budget. I got kind of a breakdown here. We do valve risers to match the water valves with the new asphalt because we'll increase the thickness of that. We also have a manhole, some butt joints, some contractor striping, some in-house street striping, thermoplastics for the crosswalks, trail crossings, and then any other costs associated with that.
Do we?
But for the 111,
Go ahead.
excuse me, I got the 111.92, that's for the actual hot mix itself rolled in place.
That's the prep, the surface.
Yes. Now for our
placing.
total budget, it includes some other items.
Relative to the add-on costs, are any of those that we pass on to other folks?
No,
So we assume that even though they're in our right-of-way.
correct.
Okay. It's been my past practice and experience that things that don't belong to the city are passed on to the agency that owns them. So as an example, if it's a water valve, it would go to the water department, and if it's a
We
manhole-
pay for the riser because we're the ones changing the height of the road, the thickness of the asphalt.
But they're in our place, they're in our property, so it's inconveniencing us and causing an extra charge to us to allow them
Yes.
to do that.
This year, the valve risers were $57.29 each, the ones for them to adjust them.
So the bid total on the valve box risers is how much?
So on the contract,
Yeah.
for them to adjust them, it's $57.29 each. For
No,
us,
what's the total? How many do we
He's
have?
wondering
we
how
are
many they
expecting
were.
there to be 30,
Huh?
30.
30, so 60 times 30, what, 18?
The bid amount was $1,718.70 on that line item.
And what about the manholes?
The manholes, we will purchase that directly. We're estimating at $500.
Total?
Yes, $500 total.
So you have probably.
We don't have a whole lot of manholes in Bella Vista,
No.
so we drive each street prior to the contractor, count what we need to do. And we're estimating we're gonna have to replace $500 worth of manhole covers. That's gonna be adding the riser to increase the height of that lid.
So when you say the capital for the asphalt is $2,345,000, is that just for the hot mix, or does that include the extra things you just talked about?
So our budget includes all of it.
Yeah,
On the contract itself, the line items are going to be the hot mix overlay, the water valve adjustments, the milled butt joints, and the street striping.
yeah,
That's what will be included in the contract.
okay.
The total bid that we're awarding is based upon their bottom line bid for all of the extra items that we know about.
Correct.
Or have estimated.
Yes, we
So it
spend a
could be
lot of
more.
time estimating, we spend a lot of time driving the streets to have a very accurate number here.
So in reality, if they find 2 or 3 or 4 more water valves or manholes or other things like that, the cost could be higher on the
Right, it
bottom
would
line.
be each on the water valves, linear feet on the butt joints, street stripings by linear feet.
So when we approve this, we're actually approving a variable total, not necessarily
Correct.
a fixed to the penny total.
Yes, it's a unit
It's a
price.
unit price bid, and this is based on our best knowledge as of today,
Correct.
so.
Yeah, but for the whole budget, we don't go over budget. We can't go over budget.
Right, there's
Without
the
an
cap
adjustment there.
of the budget on there.
But if this is less than what the budget,
So we
was
had
approved
estimated
for.
a higher dollar amount per ton on our estimate worksheets based off kind of the standard market, what was going. This estimate, this bid came in a little bit lower, so we'll be able to do some additional streets this year. But remaining under that budget amount that city council approved.
assuming we don't have any other extras in the other categories, that pushes it.
It's kind of limited. We're not gonna add a whole new water valve somewhere. This is just the riser, so the
Right.
extras will be limited.
Yeah.
The unknowns, I should say.
Just for the sake of the general public, I think it's interesting for them to see the total numbers. The asphalt overlay is 2,345,000, and the slurry's 900,000. So it's
Yes.
a pretty big budget all in all
Yes, it is.
for us.
Well, we have more miles per capita of streets than any city in Arkansas, so
That is correct.
goes to show you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know we have some issue streets. I mean, what city doesn't, right?
Yep.
But if you get out much, travel around, you go to a lot of other cities, our streets are pretty darn good,
Yes, they are.
by and large. They really are. So,
Well, I think they've improved quite a lot. In the time I've been on city
Yeah.
council, they've
Yeah.
made some real strides. It's been a big effort.
but that
by
was
the
one of
street department.
the issues that was revealed, I think, when Peter had a survey put out to city residents on what was important to them, and streets was right up at top. So he made that, one of his priorities, and I think we're going to continue on with that
Right.
process.
Right,
Yeah.
with city council supporting the budget to be able to fund more streets, it's definitely made an overall improvement.
Notwithstanding the streets that are unimproved that we own too, so. It's
Yes.
a whole separate nemesis.
That is a whole separate issue.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second?
Thank you, Karen. That was Mr. Fowler and Mr. Wilms. Roll call vote.
Council members Wozniak,
Yes?
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes,
and Hughes.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Next one is a resolution amending the 2024 city budget regarding development impact fee authorized expenses for the library and police department. And you have an attachment about this. It was, for the library, it was $16,599. And for the police, it was, what, 305,000?
13. Oh, that's funds available.
Yeah.
It's 289, 293, 23, right? That's the request.
Yeah, that's right.
So this is, we had approved basically this in a prior meeting, but this actually gets to the exact number, right? Is what this does. Yeah. I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
That was Mr. Fowler and Mr. Hanschel. Roll call vote.
Council members Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow,
yes,
Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes?
Wilms,
Yes.
and Fowler.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Next one is a resolution amending resolution number R 2024-21 and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into a contract with Superior Automotive Group of Siloam Springs pursuant to a state procurement contract for the purchase of 4 2024 Dodge Durango all-wheel drive pursuit vehicles in amount not to exceed $170,760 for the police department.
Move to approve.
Second.
It was Mr. Wilms and Mr. Wozniak.
This is the one where the mistake was made, yeah. And we're just adjusting it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chief was wanting to say something, or let him go ahead and talk.
No, that's okay.
I think we had a motion and a second, so a roll call vote.
Council members Snow,
Yes?
Hughes,
Yes.
Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
and Hanschel.
Yes.
Motion carried, 6-0. The next one is a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into a guaranteed maximum price contract amendment with Kleiner Construction Management, Inc. in the total amount of $6,374,873.18 for further construction and remodeling of the former police station and fire station number 1 for purposes of constructing city administrative offices, Phase 1 and 2 combined with associated site work, in parens. And I'm sure the chief can elaborate. I wanted to mention that 2,659,000 of this was approved already. That was the work that was done, changing the police station and the fire living quarters. And really the new things up today are $3 million for Phase 2, which is the administrative offices and the fire department's offices, and $685,000 for site work. Chief, you want to go ahead and elaborate?
That's correct. Councilmember Feller, I appreciate you calling me to get kind of clarification this afternoon on that. This amendment here to say AIA, document A133, is amendment to Phase 1A, which was already approved by the council in September 2023, in amount of $367,000 and some change, which was the demo part of the former two-story police station, okay, where they demoed it out, which we come back in the next month and got the Phase 1B renovation, two-story building construction complete, fire sprinkler system designed for expansion into future phases 2, 3, and 4. That was also passed by resolution in October 2023 with the combination of both of those prices of $2,659,813 and some change. This amendment includes all of that plus Phase 2, new two-story building containing approximately 6,605 square feet, including site work and paving around Phase 1 and Phase 2 buildings. What that means, it's asking for the funding to start the new two-story project that's coming out from the existing two-story project. It's the fire living, which goes north, that includes fire administration on the top floor and city hall administration on the bottom level, with other site work and things like that that's got to go around that particular project. When I spoke to the council on Monday, I didn't realize that Mark was going to include the site work on that, which makes sense to me to get the site work done so we can have people park them while we're doing other phases of the project. So this is what this guaranteed maximum price amendment is for this evening. It's a total of all of those amendments to the grand total of $6 million, was it $6,000,003?
So one of the things I was looking at to do, and I'm just doing math on my own. So we have right now $5,777,000 in the capital budget for 2024, which means we spent some of the money of the 6.2 million or whatever in 2023, right?
Yes, so a total of about, in 2023, we spent around a little over $200,000 for stuff in that. And then, of course, with the demo and some other things, earlier this year we paid for is another $414,000, somewhere around there. So about a little over $600,000 we paid so far towards this project.
Right.
At this time.
Question for you. I happened to be at City Hall last week, and observed the DOT, Arkansas Department of Transportation, Henry Sapp Group, looking at the main entrance into the current site, trying to determine what they were going to do to restore that project, which ends apparently just short of the bridge structure over Highway 71. Has anyone from the consultant or you been coordinating with them so that when they're done with all of their work, we're not going to go out there and tear it all up and redo it all to make it fit our plan?
We are currently working with the Department of Transportation and with Emery, Sapp and Sons on the plan, in my understanding, on the original plan that Crafton and Toll has designed for the city, the site work. Mark, is that not correct?
It appeared from what I observed and listened to that they were unsure about what they were actually going to do there, like they were shooting from the hip on their side with their plan, not knowing what was final. My only comment to them was, I hope that you and the city are coordinating so that you don't put in a new system of entry and we come and tear it all out and redo it when we do our new city hall and fire station. So,
You are correct. There was some confusion. I was out there as well, along with that confusion. But I believe that we've got it squared away that they're going to use the current site plan construction that Crafton and Toll, that the city's civil that they've hired to do the work. The plan that's in place is what they're going to be doing as far as I know.
so to the extent that they're going to do restoration work for the bridge project itself and the approaches on either end, it now will be in accordance with our plan for the final site.
To my knowledge, they're going to do that plan in front of City Hall as stated on the Crafton and Toll site plan that the city has approved,
Okay. So
that the City Planning Commission has approved.
So that happened this week?
That's right. Am I speaking out loud? Okay.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Second.
It was Mr. Hanschel and Mr. Wozniak. Roll call vote.
Council members Wozniak,
Yes.
Wilms,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hanschel,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
Hughes,
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. For announcements, next city council work session is 5:30 PM on Monday, May 20. Next city council regular meeting is 6 PM on Tuesday, May 28. That's a Tuesday because of the Memorial holiday. Planning Commission work session, 4:30 PM on Thursday, May 2. Planning Commission regular meeting, 4:30 PM on Monday, May 13. Board of Construction Appeals, 3 PM Tuesday, May 14, if necessary, at Fire Station Number 4, Conference Room. Unless there's anything else.
If you haven't been to Lake Bella Vista lately, they've taken most of the fencing down. So you can actually drive into where that lake was and see everything they've done. They poured an awful lot of cement, there's an awful lot of paths in there. Need to go look.
So can you go from the parking lot along 71 over to the veterans?
I didn't say they fixed the bridge.
Well, it doesn't mean you can't walk over there, though.
No,
If
no,
you like
no.
it, you can't, but you can drive right up to the, you can actually drive in it now, if you go from Memorial side.
Really?
Yeah, the parking lot area is
But they've
completed.
taken most of their
Yeah,
fencing down for construction. You can actually drive in there and see what they've done.
Yeah.
We just have to wait for the first big flood to see if it made a difference or not.
Okay, Larry Wilms?
I only want to comment, I've had some complaints from residents about unqualified specialists doing work, home improvement projects around the city, decks being one of them, so I don't know if that's an issue.
Are they complaining to the right people or?
Well, that's the question, whether,
Talk to CES, code enforcement, building officials, building officials, talk to the right people, and it will be taken very seriously. But so many people just talk and then don't talk to the right people.
I hear you.
And then that's, what are we supposed to do?
Yeah, that was,
Well, thanks for bringing that up. Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.